Hello, how you doing? My name's Matt Barr and you're listening to the Looking Sideways Action Sports podcast. It's a podcast where I try and uncover the most fascinating stories in action sports and other related endeavours. So thank you as ever for listening to and or downloading the show. And I hope you enjoy it. We're on episode 18, if you can believe that. So I hope everyone's doing well. I'm just back from a lovely 3 days in County Clare in Ireland. I stayed in Lahinch on the west coast and I had a very enjoyable time visiting friends, having the odd surf. I did my usual of perfectly arriving in between the two swells, but still got a few waves, which is good. Caught up on some local gossip, did a bit of sightseeing and took care of some podcast business, which went really well. So well, in fact, that what you're listening to here is part one of a special 3-part Irish omnibus, which is my interview with Irish surfer and farmer Fergal Smith. So if you've been listening to this for a while, you're probably overly familiar with my tagline, which is that I try and uncover the most fascinating stories in action sports and other related endeavours. And this one definitely fits into that category. For the uninitiated, Fergal Smith is one of Ireland's most prominent big wave surfers, and he initially came to prominence through the surf media as basically a charger who grew up surfing Ireland's extremely intimidating slabs and reefs before taking those skills onto a world stage, snagging sponsorship, heading off to places like Tahiti. So far, so conventional, and for a while that gave him a very prominent and enjoyable career. Then when he was 24 and recovering from an injury in Tahiti, Fergal had what can only really be described as an epiphany, and he headed back to Ireland and gave up flying and travelling and soon dedicated himself to what he spent the last 6 years working on, which is creating an organic farm on the outskirts of Lahinch. Along with his friends and fellow chargers Matt Smith and Mitch Corbett and a whole host of helpers and supporters, Fergal began with a community garden which soon grew into the project's current incarnation, the 17-acre Moy Hill CSA farm, through which they grow organic veg and feed 50 local families from a spot on a hill overlooking Lahinch Bay. And now the boys, led by Fergal, have embarked upon the project's most ambitious stage, which is launching a crowdfunder campaign with which they hope to move on to an even bigger site and feed around 150 families. So I've known Fergal for a while, and I've been wanting to go and visit the farm for years. So the launch of the crowdfunder seemed the right time for a podcast-themed busman's holiday. So I got to the farm on a beautiful sunny day, headed up to Moy Hill, and me and Fergal took a walk around the farm and recorded the podcast as we went. As with the earlier episode with DJ Barbecue, that kind of free-form approach means the audio on this one can be a little all over the place, particularly at the start. So I hope the more frequency-sensitive among you can forgive me for that. I'm also aware that the podcast isn't particularly the best medium for describing a farm. But, you know, people seem to be digging the more atmospheric episodes. And this one's definitely in that camp if you can get with the chicken, bird, wind and pig noises, which all feature. Above all, with this one, I wanted to find out more about Fergal's goals and ambitions, and also how Moy Hill, which is a community-supported farm, actually works, which is something we discuss in depth. Fergal's got a lot of interesting things to say, as you're going to hear, about leadership, about our responsibilities to nature, and of being part of something bigger than yourself. At a relatively young age, he's only 30 now, he's made fearless life choices, as you'll hear. And speaking to him, I was also struck by the breadth of his vision and ambition. He wants nothing less than to create a native ecosystem that can support his local community. Then there's his energy, as well as the visionary behind the farm. He's behind Home Tree, which is a charity designed to try and reintroduce native woodland to the local environment. He's run for Parliament as Green candidate. He's bringing up a young family, and he's also, lest we forget, still absolutely charging whenever it's firing at the cliffs or Mully. In short, this quiet, confident, fairly unassuming man is an absolute force of nature who's unafraid of speaking truth to power. And if that isn't one of the most interesting stories in action sports right now, then I really don't know what is. So yeah, top episode this with a modern day agricultural firebrand, albeit in a very softly spoken way. So here it is, my interview with Irish surfer and farmer Fergal Smith on becoming the change. Enjoy. So Ferg, how are you?
I'm good. It's a Monday and the sun is shining, so we're all happy on the farm.
To tell me where we are.
We are above Lahinch in County Clare. It's about 4 miles south on top of a hill overlooking the bay. We have a 17-acre kind of wet, windy, boggy hill where we grow our vegetables. And it's in kind of middle of September, getting to the end of the busy growing season.
Okay, so this looks like the main field, right?
So we've just walked from our packing shed and our kitchen and kind of where everything kind of gets packed and sorted. So the closest veg to the tunnel is the ones that you pick most regularly.
Okay.
And the tunnels that you go into a lot more than outside are all closer to the shed.
Yeah.
So there's kind of 4 polytunnels around the shed. The smaller, more intense little raised beds are close to the shed, where your strawberries and your herbs and things you pick regularly, like kale and chard and salads and courgettes. And then it goes further down the field. It goes into things that stay in the ground longer.
Yeah.
You don't need to go as often down to get. So yeah.
So what are you growing? I can see some fennel.
Yeah, fennel bulbs.
See some chard.
There's chard. There's kale, courgettes, parsley. On this side, there's spring onions, lettuce, beetroot. There was loads of spuds we dug out here. There's rocket gone in there. Further down, there's more lettuce, more chard, more spring onions, more kale, celery, Brussels sprouts, leeks, turnips. Yeah, that's
You're busy.
Yeah.
So how many are you? How many of you guys are involved in this? So it's Moy Hill Community Garden, right? That's what it's called.
It's Moy Hill CSA Farm up here, and there's Moy Hill Community Garden, which we started.
Oh, that was the original one.
That's where it started, in the community garden, and then it scaled up to a CSA farm, which means Community Supported Agriculture. And then now we're in the process of buying more land, which will be Moy Hill Community Farm, which is kind of going to be the CSA model, but also, more teaching, more animals, more kind of events, more kind of bigger community side of things.
Yeah. Give me a quick overview then of how it all started. So I know the story about how you started the garden, but obviously this is like a much bigger operation. So talk me through where it all sort of came from.
Well, I grew up on an organic farm, so this isn't new to me, really. Like, this kind of style of farming, going to market and all that was what I grew up with. So I always knew I'd come back to some version of it at some stage. And I was traveling, going around the world, having a great time. And it kind of hit me like a ton of bricks when I was in Tahiti once. And that, what am I doing, really, at the end of the day? Just surfing and getting paid to do it and not really leaving a positive mark on the places I go. And I just realised I have a chance to grow food. I know how to do it, and it's I kind of feel like it's almost my duty that I had to do it.
Right.
And it just came to me very clearly what I had to go and do.
Was that something that you'd been thinking about for a while?
I always, I suppose, known it deep down, but it kind of just hit me in a big wave when I was about 24 in Tahiti. And I hit my knee, and I was sitting on a couch for a couple of weeks in Tahiti wondering what I was going to do. And then I was like, really, I know what I need to do. And
right.
I've come back, and I thought about doing... The dream has always been very clear and very precise all along, that I wanted to have this full community farm.
Right.
And when I came back, I looked at doing that and buying nearly an 80-acre farm, having a huge loan and all that stuff. And I almost did it. And then I went, hold on a second, let's tone this down and do it the other way around. So I started with the half-acre community garden, which I did for 2 years, which is still there now. But then we moved on to a borrowed piece of land, which we were growing on for 2 years. And then we bought this place, and now we're here 2 years, and now we're buying the bigger plot. So
we can talk about that, because that's your crowdfunding project that you've got on at the minute. So you started small. So how many people were involved in the original community garden then?
In the very beginning, I just came home and I started, and it was actually my wife now who started with me, Sally, at the very beginning. But it was, Mitch was living with me at the time, Mitch Corbett, and he instantly, joined in with me and got into it. And not long after, Matt was in Ireland, he joined in as well.
Matt Smith.
Yeah, so before long, they were doing it, and so many others have always been around and helping as well. But I suppose those guys felt it the most strongly and have been, key, a part of it since the start. And yeah, then when this land came for sale and stuff, they were so in for it that we all just did it together.
Okay. So how did you raise the money to buy the land then? Because what is it, 16 acres?
This is 17 acres.
17 acres.
It was just the three of us pitched together, and
Right.
we bought it out of our own pocket.
Right, okay. And you were saying earlier that when you moved up here, you had no, not only did you not have any electricity or running water, you had no road.
Yeah, there was nothing here. Like, the place hadn't been farmed in about 20 years. And there was a farm track in about halfway, and then, which wasn't really drivable. And, the whole site was, basically just a wild, overgrown, boggy field. And we had to start from total scratch. And, it's been a crazy kind of 2 years getting it up and running. But it's, the mad infrastructure stage is starting to slow down now. And
Right.
we're getting into the more growing veg part of it.
Right. So how long did it take to actually get this land in a position where you could get it to where it looks like today, where you've obviously done a year and there's crops and there's a harvest?
We did it. We did all this side of the garden, so there's two sides, and we did all this side last year as well.
Yeah.
And now we've done this side again this year, and then half the other side.
Right.
So we just scale up another kind of 50%, but we got the site in like September, so we worked all through the winter with diggers and building roads, and then we started planting that spring.
Okay.
But now, see, last summer we were building sheds and tunnels and all that, and this year they're all done.
Yeah.
So now it's a lot more kind of easier just to be concentrating on the veg. And,
Yeah. And you were living here as well when you were doing all this?
Yeah, at the very beginning I was living with my family in the yurt, because making decisions off-site is very tricky, because they're for life where you make these decisions. And it was nice to be here at the very beginning, and once it kind of got settled and set up, then I moved off just to keep the vibe really about a community farm for people to come and work, and not a family place of living.
Yeah.
It gets complicated if you have that. So
yeah,
I mean, you're so
immersed in it that I'm sure there must be times when you need to sort of step away. Oh,
totally.
Chickens.
You don't stop when you're living here.
Yeah.
So we have our little flock of chickens that we move around and feed us. But all these ideas are just kind of in small scale, and then once we have this new farm, we will be upping these ideas and feeding more people is the game.
Right. So tell me about that, because it might be good actually if you could explain. I mean, you did a little bit earlier. So it's a community project basically. So was that always the idea that you would use this place or the farm that you created to feed the community? Yeah,
it's kind of the motives for doing it in the first place. It's certainly not a business model for us to make money.
Right.
Even though we really feel passionate and we have to make money, because if it doesn't make money, no one else is going to do it. So it has to really work financially.
Yeah.
But like, we could be selling this veg to loads of restaurants and different things like that, but it's really key to us that it goes to the community.
So how does that work? Practically?
Practically, it's a membership based. That's
right.
how we do it. So people sign up to the farm, basically like a subscription for the year, and they either pay up. There's 3 different styles. It's either you pay all up in one go, in 2 installments, or by standing order.
Yeah.
And it's just all about trying to take the admin and that money stuff out of the farmer's life.
Okay.
And all we have to do is grow veg and have your number of members that you have, and they commit to us and we commit to them.
Okay.
And you take out of this, consumerism, if they want it, trying to sell them stuff. It's like, this is good food, we will supply you good food, and you supply us with the funds that allow us to do it.
Yeah, and obviously this project is all about the community that you're trying to create as well. And you were saying you do the Tuesdays, like the volunteer days, right? So how many people are you getting in to help with that? Yeah,
like it's a lot more than just getting veg out to members and that's it. Like, it's all about the reason why it's a membership as well is to have a direct relationship with people about what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
And getting them here in as many ways as possible. So we have our volunteer day once a week that people can come and help, and they can obviously learn how to grow veg and help us and help their food grow and meet people and all that side of it. But then we do lots of other things where, like, Brian, our chef who lives here, does a cookery class once a month. We have at least one music gig once a month, and just trying to do as many different things on the farm that brings people here.
Yeah.
That it becomes their farm that they can come and use and enjoy, and there's a little playground for the kids, and it becomes a place that you want to come and hang out on and help in some way or just be involved in, and it just brings the farm a lot more energy and good vibes and people seeing the place and enjoying it. And so we're always trying to link in our members and just the locals and community around us in as many ways as we can.
So were you inspired by other examples of this?
Yeah. So I've always had this idea of how I wanted it to be, and then kind of the CSA is basically is a term and a style that really encompasses a lot of what I was dreaming of and thinking of.
Right.
And then we went to the UK on a road trip 2 years ago.
Oh yeah, that's when I saw you in London, right?
Yeah, so we all drove around in a van for 2 weeks and visited kind of 12, 15 different CSA farms. And it was amazing, like just seeing, CSA farms that have been operating for 15 years and, they have 150 members, they feed them year round, there's people employed, it works.
Yeah.
Like that for us was really important to see.
Yeah.
There's even better examples, longer running in Europe, but then I feel the UK diet is a lot more similar to the Irish one and the climate, so that's why we went there more so. And they work,
Right.
These CSA models have been working for over 30, 40 years.
Really? Okay.
And they feed communities and people are employed and people are connected to the land. And
yeah,
it's taking the power back really, that you know where your food comes from. You're helping people grow the food. People growing the food are helping you stay healthy.
Yeah.
And there's all that community engagement, which is kind of lost in a Western society these days.
Well, in your Crowdfunder page, and like I say, we'll talk a little bit more in detail about that, but you talk about sovereignty, this idea of of taking back, I mean, this is a bit of in the UK cliched phrase right now, but taking back control, but you're talking of like the food, the water, like the land, and that is that belief, and that is at the heart of this, basically. It's
some of the things that are really key to why we're doing it. Like, basically, if we weren't growing food for ourselves, where would we be getting our food from? It's very hard to get local, you can call it organic or basically chemically free food is very hard to come by. And other than that, like, most people are buying imported non-organic food. Like 70% of our food or vegetables in this country are imported.
From a long way away, right, as well?
Yeah, and even if they're not from, like, a lot of it is Holland and Spain, but like, that wasn't on a plant like probably 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And you're not going to get the best out of that food.
Yeah.
It's just not possible. And it's all grown on an industrial model, so they're not being cared for in the best way. The land hasn't been cared for the best way. The employees probably weren't in the best care either. So you're supporting a model that you don't really agree with. So we have to, take our kind of food sovereignty back and feed ourselves and feed our community and involve our community to help us do it as well.
Is it something that you think's got the potential to be adopted on a far wider scale?
Totally. Like, it is going to be adopted. It is being adopted. The UK is growing all the time. They're total success stories. It's just, I think the hardest thing is it's a conversation you need to have with your community, and that takes time. The farmer or the community who want the farmer to be a CSA model, it takes time to change people into that way of thinking.
Yeah.
So it can't happen overnight. Basically, our kind of goal or mission is to get our farm working the way we want it to be, in the scale that feeds people, employs people, and it works.
Yeah.
And the land is getting cared for, and then there's a model. Because up to now, there is a few other CSA farms in Ireland, but they're not, they're not inspiring enough for other farmers to do it. And we need to make it, a model that is inspiring and works, and then also show the blueprint or the steps how to go and do it.
Why are they not inspiring? What is it about them that?
Well, they're just in the same boat we are. They're at this kind of the start. It's that kind of struggle of setting up and trying to make a living. Trying to make a living out of growing food is next to impossible.
Yeah.
Food is, it's not valued. It's the cheapest it's ever been in history, when it should be more expensive than it's ever been. But we don't seem to value food highly enough for it to be, charged more. So people are trying to make a living, so they're caught in this tangle of trying to make a living, but also trying to do this great thing of this community farm. So Yeah.
How are you finding that balance personally then?
Yeah, we don't make a cent here. Like no one takes a wage out of the farm. Every bit of money we do make goes straight back in, and that's just because we're on a very clear mission that we need to make this work.
Yeah.
But for a lot of people, like they can't risk, and we've been lucky enough that all of us have been professional surfers, and we've had sponsorship up till recently, and me and Matt still have, Mitch doesn't anymore, that just about pays our life here.
Okay.
If we didn't have that,
right,
yeah, it would be much harder.
Right. Did it feel like a risk then? That's the word you just used.
No, like I suppose for me, it's my background knowing how to grow food, like I know what it takes to make it work, and we won't make ever really much money, but I know it can work. It's hard work, but we'll make it work. And yeah, it's just important that we do it. And there is risks financially, but I don't really care because it's too important. It's too important for my kids.
Yeah.
That they have a healthy community and good food and stuff around them. So we have to take the chance on it.
So this is Owen, right?
Yeah.
What's he up to?
We were digging spuds yesterday, and what we do after the spuds have been dug out is we then take out all the weeds,
right, and
take it totally weed free, and then we sow what's called a green manure. So we're sowing clover, winter vetch, and ryegrass to cover the bare soil for the winter.
Yeah.
Because if we just dug the spuds and left it bare ground, the winter rain and wind and stuff would just wash out all the nutrients.
Okay.
So we cover it in a good grass rather than just letting your normal weeds take over.
Yeah.
We put down what we like. That's going to help the soil and it'll be easier for us to deal with in the spring.
Okay. So
we're just covering it after he takes the weeds out.
Right. And we're just coming up to the polytunnel that you guys built.
Yeah. So it's not having much money. It's been obviously a struggle. We had 2 tunnels given to us. They're only small, but they were recycled, so we took them down and put them back up.
Yeah.
But they weren't of total fit for purpose size. So we've had this dream of having the right size tunnel that we want, and we built it ourselves to take down the cost, because usually tunnels are about $3,000 or so for a big tunnel.
Right.
But we just bought the steel and bought the plastic and bent it and did it ourselves, and it was about €1,800 or something. So
yeah.
You can save a good bit of money, and you can make it exactly made to measure sizes, which is lovely. It's exactly the length we wanted, the width we wanted, and that kind of stuff. So.
Yeah. So you got tomatoes, courgettes.
Yeah, French beans, cucumbers, chilies, basil.
Yeah.
Things like that.
How many things are you growing on there? Do you know?
I don't know. I think it's about 40 or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not really sure.
Right. And is it a year-round yield?
It'll be food year round. Like we can't do our membership year round because we just haven't got basically for year round food you need kind of more acreage outdoors for that bulk crop of storage for the winter, and we're in that market garden phase of kind of like small space but lots grows in there.
Yeah.
But we don't have that storage, so we'd have veg in the tunnels and stuff for ourselves over the winter, but not enough to keep the membership going.
Okay.
So for now last year we did 22 weeks. This year we're doing 26 weeks, so it's 6 months now. And every year we'd like to just increase that a few weeks. So hopefully we'll do 30 weeks next year. And as we expand, we'll hopefully get to 40 weeks would be lovely. And then after that, we'll see.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So you've mentioned a couple of times that your dad is an organic farmer, right?
He is, yeah.
So did you grow up learning about this world and about the skills?
Yeah, like I suppose I was never formally taught. I was just told what to do.
Right.
And you just learn by osmosis. But I really enjoyed it. Like I really was a happy kid in the garden. I never complained that I had to go to work or anything.
Yeah.
Like my brother and sister don't really have much interest in it.
Right.
But I actually really loved it, and I always did.
Should we go and check the view?
Yeah.
Right. So you as a kid you were just curious about it, and
I loved it. Yeah. I was always out there helping them and happy to do it. The only conflicting thing that happened was surfing.
Right.
And it was Dad's fault in the first place. He's the one who started it.
Because you lot were brought up in Westport, was it?
Yeah. And then we used to go down to Achill Island in the summers on the weekend.
Yeah.
That was our kind of holidays, because as a farming family you just don't get to get away.
Right.
So we went down to Achill and Dad started surfing, and me and my brother did as well, and that was it. And because where we lived was about 40 minutes from the sea,
right,
it was either you were gardening or you were going surfing. It was really hard to do the both.
Yeah.
So to me, I thought you either had to be a gardener or you could be a surfer. I didn't think you could have both.
Yeah.
So I just couldn't wait to not garden in the end and go surfing. So as soon as I was old enough, I was gone. And yeah, I surfed for, 10 years flat out. But then when I was living in Clare for the winters and travelling every summer, I started to realise that I wanted to grow veg. And in Clare, the coastline is a lot closer and kind of compact than Mayo and Sligo and stuff. And yeah, you can live on the coast in Clare and everything's really close to you.
Yeah.
But you can still be gardening as well.
Yeah, so we can see, again, I'll put pictures up, but that's Lahinch down there.
Yeah, so you can see Lahinch right out kind of towards the end of Liscannor, and you can kind of see what the waves are doing, and it just makes life so easy. I can stand here for 10 minutes, see what the waves are doing, and then feel comfortable that I'm going to work and not miss anything. Yeah. Or I can go, oh, it looks like it'll be pretty good. See what time the tide is, and go, yeah, I'll stop working in 2 hours and go for a surf and come back. Yeah. And your life can actually blend into the two of them quite well. But where I grew up, where my dad's growing still, it just wasn't possible. And I was getting really, it's quite stressful. Like the idea of driving in the car for an hour just to go and check the waves. Right. And then it mightn't even be that good. Yeah. And then you drive around for an hour and then drive home, and you've driven for 3 hours. Yeah. Just for a surf. I think for a lot of people, certainly some of my friends, that's almost part of the deal. I know. And that's how I grew up. That's what I did for my whole childhood. Let's just go and check the next one. But here it's like I can look down, it is shit, so let's not go driving around today, and I can just keep doing something more productive. Yeah. But then you can see so clearly when it's good, you're like, oh shit, I don't care what needs to be done in the garden, I'm down. The waves are too good, I'm going now. And that really just keeps you sane, basically. Yeah. So how often are you surfing? In the summertime, it's little. Like, because the days are long, we usually go down in the evening just for a splash and go for a dip. But the waves are pretty crap here in the summer. Yeah. So it's just a dip in the sea and a swim and kind of wash off the dirt. But the only tricky time we really have at the farm is spring and autumn. When it's good. Because when the waves are good in spring, the garden is really hectic. And then in the autumn, it's not as hectic in the garden, but there's still things to do. So there's a tricky little couple of weeks either side of the summer. And then in the winter, it's fine. We surf in the winter. The garden's pretty quiet, and you can surf through the winter. So when you had that moment in Tahiti, you must have been thinking as well, because the waves are so good here. Did that help? The decision to sort of turn you back on that career that you had? Totally. Like, I also, I have always said... you had an enviable career, really, on the face of it. For a lot of people, like, that's something, you sponsored, filming, travelling, like, so... It was everything I dreamed that I wanted to do, and what it was is I was in debt all the time, just about paying bills through sponsorship. Yeah. And then just as I became... Do you want that noise, or do you want to go... further away? Let's just keep walking. Yeah, we're going to see pigs, actually. Yeah. I drove past some pigs on the way in, so... Yeah. Cool. So it was the moment I actually got out of debt and started to make a plus. Right. It didn't feel right anymore. Right. I couldn't justify travelling just to make money out of surfing. Yeah. And then I was like, okay, now I need to rethink all this. And then I'd always tell people my favourite waves in the world are in Ireland. Yeah. And my favourite place to be is Ireland. So I'm kind of like... then what am I doing? Like, I almost felt like I was not honouring the place that I loved the most. Right. You surfed places like Chopes, you were saying, and how did it match those expectations that you had when you started that career? Yeah, it was exactly how I dreamed it. It was better than I dreamed it at times. Obviously, some bits weren't as good as I dreamed it. But yeah, surfing waves in Tahiti and Fiji and places like that were, phenomenal. I'm surfing the most beautiful, best waves in the world with the best surfers in the world. It was that combination that was what I was really dreaming of. It was not just the best waves, because I actually can get that here, but it was also surfing with the best in the world and being able to catch as good waves as those people and to really test, could I do it? And yeah, it was amazing. It really was. Right. And are you getting that from surfing here still? Is that what you're looking for when you're surfing? It was for a long time, and then I suppose I kind of achieved a lot of the things that I was intending to achieve, and it's not burnout, but it's kind of like that energy is so up all the time. It's quite intense that you're on the edge, pushing yourself all the time.
Yeah.
That I suppose naturally having kids, starting a garden, I've done a pretty massive life change, and it's just a lighter, softer kind of energy now. And I go surfing because I love it and I enjoy it. And when the waves are really good, I'm out there just as much as before, but it's probably not as intense kind of pushing myself energy, but it's actually a lot more enjoyable. I end up maybe surfing a few less waves, but I sometimes would ride just as good waves, just a lot more kind of calmly and just at my own kind of pace and what suits the family. And it's a lot more enjoyable actually when you just fit it in your life. And
it sounds like you found the balance that perhaps you were looking for.
It was certainly very intense before. Like I couldn't commit to any engagement or any date with anyone because I didn't know if I'd be chasing a swell somewhere. And it's just all about that kind of pushing yourself all the time. And I think that was something I really was missing because I was so about myself getting really good waves. I wasn't a part of any community.
Right.
I couldn't really commit to helping anyone.
Did you not find a community among like your peers, your contemporaries?
Yeah, totally. But surfing's an individual sport.
Yeah.
It's you and your decisions and how hard you want to push yourself.
Yeah.
And I think I really missed the community connections of being there for people. And we feed people every week and that's really real. And it's a different feeling. It's really nice. So I think I missed a bit of that.
There we go then. So who are these?
This is our 3 pigs. Holly's our big one. She's a saddleback. That's Willow and Hazel.
Oh, is Hazel the one from the YouTube series, I think?
I think Holly would be. Holly's the first one I got.
Okay.
She's the big girl that I had first. And she actually started my kind of being committing to things. She was the first thing I ever committed to, really.
When you got into this?
Yeah, when I came back, I started the community garden. People were telling me pigs are really good for rooting things.
Right.
And I don't like to talk about things, so I just went for it.
Okay.
And it was such an overwhelming feeling of, oh shit.
Right, I've got a pig.
I've got to feed a pig every day. Like I can't not feed her.
Yeah.
And it was so overwhelming. It was the first time I had this responsibility and I didn't know what I was going to do.
Yeah.
And actually a week after I got Holly, there was an amazing swell for 2 weeks that I was going away for. And I was like, how am I going to do that? And then it all kind of happened. People love to feed pigs.
Right.
And then it wasn't a stress at all.
Yeah.
Loads of people were happy to do it.
Okay.
So then it all just kind of dissolved and I was like, oh, actually this isn't a stress.
Yeah.
This is totally fine. It's okay having a pig. And then, everything kind of unraveled from there. I got more pigs and, we've had these pigs for 4 years and, nothing's changed. I still can surf. They get fed.
Yeah.
It's just a different way of thinking and a little bit more commitment, but actually you can just, your life is totally able to function around it, but it's just nice. You're involved in more things.
Have you always had that trait then that you just described of rather than worrying about the decision, just taking the decision and then seeing where that commitment takes you? Yeah,
definitely. I would like to say if I have an idea that I wouldn't just talk about it and not do it.
Yeah.
I would certainly like to try it.
Because you can paralyse yourself with overthinking things,
totally,
can't you?
Yeah. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
You can always change. And you figure things out. That's what humans do. We're amazing creatures that can just adapt to almost any situation.
Yeah.
So.
And have you found throughout this whole project that community reaction that you've just described is I'm guessing that's a bit of a common thing, when there's a need for help from the community or assistance and you're finding it?
Yeah, the right people we find turn up at the right times all the time and it's amazing. You kind of just have to put it out there into the universe that you need certain things and it's amazing kind of what happens and just allowing it to be and not trying to control everything and we try and have roles here so we have certain responsibilities. But we're also totally happy for people to take those roles and give people responsibility and all that stuff is really, really healthy and it's a different way of operating a lot of the time.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So tell me about the Crowdfunder campaign then, because it's a really ambitious project that you guys are embarking upon, isn't it?
So, yeah.
So what is it? What are you trying to achieve?
A lot, I suppose, but for me, it's already happening and it's going to happen. So I'm not really that overwhelmed by it. I've had it in my head for so long. People get really kind of freaked out over how much I want to do, but it's just a well-run community farm. We'll have vegetables, we'll have animals, we'll have fruit, we'll have trees, and there'll be education, and there'll be accommodation, and there'll be events, and there'll be fun, and there'll be kids learning, and there'll be healing, and all these different things that communities kind of need and maybe aren't getting provided for as well as we could.
So what size is the piece of land that you want to?
So yeah, it just went up for sale, and it was just too good to be true. It was a 60-acre plot of land right beside of the land we already have, so it was too good really to not try, and we're going for it, and yeah, we'll somehow make it work.
So, and what funds do you need to do this then?
So the land is €300,000, and there's €12,000 in legal fees on top of it.
Right.
So it's €312,000 just to buy it.
Yeah.
And then we have to actually develop it as well and create the dreams on it that we need. So it's a lot of money.
Yeah.
But it's also a lifetime of work and generations of work to really create this dream I see. So I'm not really stressing on it right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, if anyone sees this vision as a worthwhile idea, we need all the help we can get.
So why should somebody listening to this back it?
Because we need these examples. There isn't enough of them, and even the ones that are in existence, they're often, and it's not to point fingers or faults, it's just we're really into trying to show people and teach people or inspire people to do it as well.
Right.
And I know loads of amazing farms better than we are, but they're too busy doing it and they haven't the motivation to really share it.
Yeah.
And that'd be a lot of what we're trying to do. So if we can make this model work, that it feeds people, it feeds a community year round with all their needs that we need, there's a healthy place for our kids to grow up and learn about nature and all that stuff and look after a piece of land that every community should be doing, then we'll hopefully help other communities do it.
So how many would you be feeding in the vision?
So our model,
you're doing 50
we're
now,
doing 50
right?
now for 6 months.
Yeah.
And our model would be 150, hopefully year round.
Okay.
And then we'd cap it at that membership, and then we'd try and help another farmer create another 150 membership.
Right.
Because once things go above that kind of number, everything changes. You're starting to lose touch with people.
Yeah.
Management tiers change, and it all gets a bit complicated. And we're trying to keep it to that level. And yeah, that's our goal.
Okay. Right. And you've been inspired by, what did you say, there's 250 of these in the UK?
Yeah, we went to the UK and did a tour of CSA farms that have been going for years, and they really work. And looking online at the ones in Europe and in Canada and America, they're solutions to our food problems.
Yeah, but we just don't. I mean, I literally didn't know about that.
Yeah, and that's, I guess, is what the real push is for us, is people don't know about these great solutions.
Yeah.
So we want to create a good solution and then really show it and show the step-by-step process to actually create them as well.
Yeah, okay. And what about, you've got the Home Tree charity as well, right?
Yeah, so with the 60 acres, it's not going to be 60 acres of vegetables. There'll probably only be maybe another 5 or 6 acres of land cultivated ever. It'll be a lot of native woodland, because trees are probably more important than anything. We need them to breathe. They're good for the land. They're good for so many things. So I'd say we're thinking about 40,000 trees straight away will get planted on the new land.
Wow.
And there is a lot of forestry schemes here, and I don't want to get into it, but they're not serving us. The grant system of forestry isn't creating good woodland. So we have a vision of how we'd love to see the...
I think you should get into it. What's the problem?
It's just a monetary system that people are only doing it for money.
Right.
They're not caring about trees. They're not caring about the land. It's just about money. And
so what, you can get grants?
Basically, you can get paid to plant trees on your land. You won't have to plant a tree. Someone else will do it, and you'll get paid for it. And around here, because the land is quite poor, they won't plant natives, and they won't pay you to plant natives. They'll only pay you to plant the Sitka spruce, mainly the non-native pine tree that grows really fast and makes cash, but is terrible for the land in so many ways.
An invasive species.
Yeah, it's not native to here. It makes the soil acidic. It compacts the land when they come into the machinery.
Right.
It destroys so many things, and they spray Roundup. You know, they don't do it very nicely.
Right.
So we want to create native trees here.
So what are the native trees that you have planted and that you would plant?
When you're starting off with no trees on a piece of land, you kind of have to do the pioneer trees, which would be the alder and birch and willows. They'd be the fastest growing trees to really get something established. And then after a few years, when they're starting to grow, then you can really start adding in. But what we do is about 2/3 them, and then you add in Scots pine, your holly, your hawthorns, some of your oak, aspen. There's loads of different trees that we do add in as well. Rowan, like there is loads of the trees, but you mainly go with the ones that you're guaranteed are going to grow well. And then maybe 5 or 6 or 7 years, you can start maybe thinning a couple out and adding in your oaks and different ones, because then they've more chance to take off.
Right.
So it's a long-term thing. Like a mature forest will take a long time. So you have to start off with the young trees first that kind of stabilize the ground and get a bit of shelter. But yeah, so woodland would be a huge thing that we'd be interested in doing, putting trees around the whole site. So there'll be woodland walks, places for kids to come. There'll be teachings about the woodland, why we planted like this. You know, there's food in under the trees. There's so many things for the animals. Like you put animals under the trees. Like pigs are forest creatures.
Yeah.
All that stuff. So it'll be totally a part of the farm. There's a term now that's getting quite widely accepted is agroforestry. So you're planting trees but still having agriculture. And that's something that we are already doing with our willow. We have willow strips through the garden that breaks up the wind.
Yeah.
And gets your leaf mold, and you have a crop.
That's this, right? That we're looking at right now.
And it dries the soil with the roots.
Right.
But also you still have vegetables. So you're not just planting willow and no vegetables. You have some willow, and what the science behind it is that you lose 10% of your land, but you gain 30% more yield.
Okay, so basically the vision that you have is for a completely native ecosystem that's self-supporting.
Yeah.
And can reintroduce some of what's basically been lost around here.
Yeah, they call it now regenerative agriculture.
Okay.
So to really regenerize the land and bring life back in and also feed us.
Okay.
You know, it's not just about conservation and growing trees. You know, we're also growing, hundreds and hundreds of pounds of food every week going out to people, and that's the difference, because there's so many benefits of that. Like obviously people are eating local food, which is really good for them. That's the main thing.
Yeah.
But every time you buy something local and not something from far away, like the cost of something growing far away in an industrial model and getting transported here, the cost of that in the environment to the one that's grown locally is like, it's such a big mathematical equation that's not been talked about.
Right.
So if these farms were in existence and people could get their local food, they're not damaging the planet in so many ways, because they're not importing and they're not wrapping in plastic and they're not doing the storage and the trucks and the shops and all that. They're taking all that out of it, and they're just supporting a local member of your community, supporting the land, and you're getting better nutrients straight into your family. And so if you want that to happen, help us make it happen as best we can, and we will help anyone else get it going.
And what kind of rewards can people get? Because that's the whole
crowdfunder. So in crowdfunding, there's
ethos, isn't it?
Yeah, there's rewards. So from €20, there's we'll plant a tree, give you a pack of seeds and a thank you card.
Yeah.
And then it goes up to 100,000, where you can, I don't know what it is, but there's all the different ones. But
so it's all on the site. So if I'll link it so people can see it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you've got some films, haven't you?
The big one that we're trying to get people to do, if you really want to come and see this place, because we don't want to do rewards with stuff.
Yeah, you want people to come and get involved.
We don't need people getting stuff.
Yeah.
So what we're trying to do is get you connected to this land. And that's quite tricky. So what we're going to do is have a small kind of gathering, a small festival on the land next autumn, next September.
Yeah.
So if you can buy your festival ticket now, that festival ticket will pay for the land, and then you'll come and get to see the land and enjoy it and go around it and listen to music and meet people who have also helped fund it, and create a community of people who really believe in the same thing, and get together with people and maybe help other ideas similar. And it's basically up to us if we want to change things.
Yeah.
It's not going to come from the top down, so it's going to come from people like us who actually really give a shit.
Yeah. What's the reaction been like from the local community?
It's good, yeah. Like we've been here for quite some time, just living in this area, and I come from a kind of farming background, so I can kind of relate to them. There's always things with land and stuff that it's tricky, so we're always involving them as much as we can. We're always having events that they can come and ask questions. We have an event tonight in the local hall.
Is that in Moy Hill?
In Moy itself, there's
in Moy, sorry.
There's just a community centre, and we're on the TV tonight.
Okay.
So we're asking them to come and watch it with us.
Yeah, so you can explain.
Yeah, and then they can ask us questions, and it's really important that like the fear comes when you don't tell people stuff.
Yeah.
But if it doesn't matter nearly what you're going to do, but if you tell them frankly what you're doing, and involve them, then they know. Then the fear is out, and we do a lot of work with trying to involve people as much as they can.
Yeah. Okay.
It's really important.
You know, one thing I've really noticed about from researching this and from following you guys is there's definitely this feeling that you're all part of something bigger than what you've than the constituent parts. I mean, was that also, I mean, obviously community, family, these things, it's clear from talking to you, so important to you. Was that sense of being part of something bigger than yourself, was that always the goal, or was that something that just happened with it?
That's basically my kind of philosophy when I stopped surfing, like traveling wise. Everyone's like, oh, you know, you had such a great life, and what are you doing? It's like, and I had a great life and I really enjoyed it, and now it's my time to give something back. But
you were only 24.
I know.
You were only young.
I know. But if I want this dream to actually be in...
Because what are you now?
I'm just 30 now.
Yeah.
Last month. And like if I want this dream to really be in, you know, in practice, I had to start early. Like, you need your best years of energy to make it happen.
Yeah. And
I knew that. So the sooner I start, the more likely it'll happen. And yeah, it might seem a bit martyrism, which I'm kind of known for, but it's like, this is much bigger than me, and I'm kind of almost of service to it now.
Right.
And it's not for me to get any personal gain, even though I do every day with the joy I see feeding people and the good food I eat myself and all that stuff. But it is much bigger than us. Like, we have a duty to really do something important. You know, we've seen how many reports and bad things going on in the world. Like, when is enough? Yeah. That we're going to stop and do something.
Yeah, well, it's like when you read that thing last week about how sea salt is now just partially made of plastic, or whatever that report was, you know.
I don't even read the news anymore because I just don't need the negatives.
You don't need that in your head.
I just need to keep on.
You read something like that and you're like, when is... Okay, so that's not enough.
Yeah, so like, what is the line? Like, that we stop driving, stop flying, stop wrapping the food in plastic, like... Because they are the problems.
Yeah.
We know they aren't the solutions.
Yeah.
So they're a problem. And, you know, I went from flying 20 times a year down to I don't fly anymore. And then driving around the country to I drive barely to town anymore. And my life is happier. Like, it's simpler, but it's happier. But we have to make that kind of choice. And the thing is, like, I'm being quite radical in my life. And I don't expect other people to do the same.
I was going to, you know, you just said earlier, like, you were known for being a martyr. And, you know, I was going to ask you about that, really, because there's an obvious sort of, well, I'm sure you hear it, you know, like, okay, that's fine for him.
Yeah.
You know, and that's...
And I'm well used to that.
Yeah. So what's your response to that? Because, you know, if I was going to be devil's advocate, it could sound a bit too good to be true, all this.
Totally.
You know?
And I'm very aware that people can't change almost, like, the situations they have, the families they have, whatever, the place they live, it just doesn't going to work to be this radical, whatever.
Yeah.
I see that, and I'm very aware of it. But you can't support a farm like this. You know, you could just buy veg locally. And then if that doesn't even exist, is find 5, 10, 20 friends.
Get an allotment.
That'd be great. But even less than that is like, that feel similar to you, go contact a farmer locally and say, we will support you if you grow us, you know, naturally grown food without chemicals, and we'll pay you in advance. The farmer would be delighted. Yeah, well,
that's why it's important, I think, that people know about these operations, really, that you can do that. Because I think most people, you know, the extent of it is like, oh, well, I can buy a veg box from, you know, one of these suppliers or whatever, which I guess is a start. But, you know, the fact that you can even go even more local than that if you know about it, and if there's 250 in the UK, there's going to be one near you, isn't there?
There will be one near you, and they're the places that solutions are happening.
Yeah,
you know, and they need support. They need, if you are near one, you need to go down and just give them a pat on the back.
Yeah.
You don't have to do any work. Just tell them thanks and keep doing it.
Yeah.
And I'll get a box of veg off you. Or like we have a volunteer day. Go to a volunteer day once or once every month, and it's not that much out of your life, but you get a connection to people, you learn a bit. And once you start that, like, the thing is, once you start, and plant a tree. That's the one I always tell everyone.
Yeah.
It doesn't take very long. Buy a tree, stick it in the ground.
Yeah.
And you'll feel great. And once you start that, once you do that positive start, then you see more positive things you can start to do in your life.
Yeah.
And slowly but surely you can integrate a few more things, and you're not radically changing anything, but it's helping. And it's just not putting the head in the sand. And that's kind of what we're all trying to do.
Yeah. Okay. Well, and another thing that you've done is you stood for election, didn't you?
Yeah.
Was that 2 years ago?
It was, when was it now? Yeah. It would
So,
have been
and that was as a
last winter.
green candidate.
Yeah, for the Green Party for general election up in the main parliament and all that. And it was very, maybe realistic from a person not from this county and never been in politics in my life.
Right. What made you decide to do that then?
It's just another great platform. Like, well, I mightn't say it's a great platform. It's another platform to say what we're doing here and why we're doing it.
Yeah.
And that's what I did it for. And it's great because what we talk...
Let's go and check out your barn actually while we're
when
walking.
and I talk to you, I'm talking to other people who kind of get it.
Yeah.
Or are more sympathetic maybe to get it.
Yeah.
But when you're on a political platform, you're talking to thousands of people who I'd never speak to.
Yeah.
I'm speaking to the grannies, the businessmen, the people in different towns, and it was great. And the one thing I really loved about the whole campaign is not one person ever disagreed with anything I said.
Right.
And I wasn't saying I'm right or perfect, but I was just saying about local food and all this stuff, and no one had anything to object about that.
Yeah.
It's just not been done.
And how'd you do?
I did it right for the first time. They say, I think I got 1,700 first preference, and they say for a first timer, they never really do more than 2,000.
Right.
It takes about 3 goes of people knowing you to get in. But it was really well received. We were really well received by the other politicians, the other parties, which is great. But it was just getting the message out there and talking to people in their language, on their terms, meeting them in their platforms of hotels and radio, which I wouldn't normally be on papers. So it was getting our message out to making it more normal.
Yeah. And did you enjoy that? Did you enjoy that process?
I did enjoy meeting people because it was all so positive.
Yeah.
The thing I didn't enjoy was how exhausting it was.
I'm sure.
You're on call basically 24/7. There's this mad thing that people think that you're kind of, you're just basically, someone can ring you at any time.
Yeah.
And just kind of hammer you with questions. And they do. And it's full on.
Yeah.
It's seriously, seriously tiring. And I was exhausted from it. But it was an amazing experience, and got to know great people out of it. And I felt really sorry for politicians at the end of it. People have all these expectations on politicians to solve all their problems.
Yeah.
But they're only one person, and fair enough, they do balls it up a lot, and they have maybe their own personal agendas some of the time, but they can't fix it. It's up to us to fix it.
Yeah.
It's up to all of us to see the problems and start doing the solutions.
Yeah.
Not see a problem and give out to the politician, because he's only trying to do his best.
So is that, again, an example of you thinking, well, money where mouth is kind of time, really?
Totally. And I did it, and people are constantly saying to me to run again, and you should
You're going to do it?
Hopefully not. It's not my preferred
Once is enough.
choice of lifestyle, being indoors and talking about things all the time.
Yeah.
But I did it because no one else was.
Right.
There was no one else running for the Greens, and there needs to be a representative. And so I did it, and hopefully someone else will do it next time. But I just looked at the system, and it doesn't work. That top-down, decision-making doesn't work. It's proven it doesn't work. The politicians that I know and like in that system, they tell me it doesn't work.
Yeah.
So why would you engage in it? It's very disheartening when you have clear visions of what you want to do, and then it's not happening.
Right.
You see so many great politicians go into politics and just get so disheartened, and because they didn't get to do what they were saying they wanted to do.
Yeah.
And that's, I couldn't do that.
No.
I'd much rather plant trees. And
well, this is actual action, isn't it?
yeah, it's tangible.
Yeah.
Like, you can see it. At the end of the day, something has changed. And that's it. And I think that's really healthy for humans. Like, I think if you can see a positive change, it doesn't matter how small it is,
Yeah.
it feels good. You can talk about solutions all day, but if nothing's changed and you go home, it doesn't feel that good.
No.
So, and there's so many studies and reports on working in gardens and different things. Like, if you do physical work with the earth and do something positive,
Yeah.
you feel pretty good after
Yeah.
it.
So what have you always had this in you? This this trait, if you like, to be a leader, really, in this kind of way. I mean, that's, you know what I'm saying. Like,
Yeah,
is this something that you've always done, or is this
Yeah.
since you were a kid?
Yeah, I definitely would always be having my big dreams of like building 7 tree houses and tunnels.
Were you always the one that was leading from the front and
yeah, like I'd always be off fishing on my own and doing things like that. Like that was always my thing. And the leadership thing is really interesting because none of us like to say we're a leader.
No.
But there's no leaders. No one's being led by any good leaders at the moment. Like, are any of our politicians someone you'd say he's a great leader?
Certainly not in my country.
No, and the same here. So if you have a feeling of, I would like to care for trees or plants or, care for the earth basically and do good in your community, you are a leader. Like it or not, you have to be a leader, because if you have that in you to do good, you have to go forward and do that. Like, basically the planet is asking you to do that. So by, default, if you like it or not, like, I am a leader now.
Yeah.
Because this is my vision to do this, and I'm going to keep doing it. And it's up to me to lead people who maybe don't have it as clear.
Yeah.
But if you have something that you want to do, you are a leader then. And it's something that we don't talk about. And it was a Native American who explained it to me. That is like, if you care about the earth, you're a leader.
Right.
And start leading.
Yeah. Well, again, it's just another way of talking about something in a different way, isn't it? Because I guess the usual connotation of like being a leader is negative, isn't it?
Yeah.
People see it as like a pushy thing or a self-centered thing.
Yeah.
So I guess it's just reframing it a little bit.
Totally.
But what do you get out of all this personally? You've said a couple of things. You've obviously there's the tangible things, there's the food that you eat, the community that you've created. But could you personally, is there anything that?
I suppose really personally, it's for my family. That they're growing up in a place that there's hope, and there's health, and there's positivity, and they're outdoors and they're healthy. Like, they're the real fundamental things that really matter to every family. But we kind of get lost in, we need to put bread on the table, but we forget what putting bread on the table actually means. We often go to work in places we don't like for that idea.
Yeah.
But I'm putting bread on the table by growing it, and being outdoors with my children, and they don't have to go to creche. They can be with me, and that's more important to me.
Yeah.
At the end of the day. And before I was doing all this, you could get quite easily wrapped up in the negativity that's going on. Like, it's pretty depressing seeing nuclear plants exploding in the sea and all these different things. Like, it's very upsetting to live in a place when you have kids as well, knowing that's happening. And the more you listen to that, it's not going to make you happier. But once you get a part of something positive, it could be anything. You could be, doing Meals on Wheels to old people, whatever the positive thing it is in your life. But once you start doing something positive, it does snap you out of it. And it makes you, like, in a world that's quite turbulent and maybe scary at times, it keeps you upbeat and happy when you can see flowers growing, birds on trees, people eating good food, kids playing. Like, it does keep you, optimistic and hopeful, and we have to be. We're the eternal optimists, and we have to be. So, yeah.
Awesome. Well, Fergal, that's been brilliant. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thanks for showing me around. So, bit of lunch.
Yeah, lunchtime.
Nice. All right. Well, thanks a lot for coming on. Really appreciate it.
Cheers, Matt.
So there you go. That was my interview with Fergal Smith, and I hope you enjoyed it. As I think you'll agree, Fergal is an impressive man. And as I said at the start, the breadth of his vision is really something to behold. And visiting the farm, as I said during our chat, the key thing I took from this is how Fergal is intent upon taking back control, don't laugh at the back, from what he calls top-down organisations. I think it's this sense of purpose, this idea of being part of something bigger and more tangible than yourself, that gives Moy Hill its peculiar energy. And there's something that Fergal and his cohorts talk about a lot, and the sense of purpose that is on the farm is actually palpable in a laid-back way. For me, in its gently agrarian way, Moy Hill is actually intensely political. And speaking to Ferg, I was reminded of other movements for rural change headed by softly spoken firebrands. I thought he answered the charges of hypocrisy and the questions of how ordinary people could get involved very eloquently. And overall, I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. Anyway, to find out more, go check the show notes at www.wearelooking.sideways.com or head over to the Moy Hill website. You're going to find links on mine to that and on my social media to find out more about the projects in the Crowdfunder. And if this has struck a chord with you and you want to get behind this alternative way of living, then donate or head up there for yourself and go and lend a hand. They need the help and they'd really appreciate it, and it is an amazing thing to get behind. So personally, I just also want to say thanks to everyone I met up there for making me feel so welcome. Thanks a lot, everyone, and hopefully I'll be back soon. All right, so some housekeeping. I've been threatening it, and it looks as though the first live Looking Sideways is happening. My friends at Finisterre have invited me to chair a discussion with surfers Noah Lane and Sandy Kerr at their Covent Garden store in London on Thursday, October the 12th. We'll be discussing their lives and careers as surfers, and I'm very much looking forward to it. It's free. There's usually free beers. If you're in London, come along and say hello. You find links to the ticket on Finisterre's website. I'll post it on my social media. I'll plonk it in the newsletter. So yeah, hope to see some of you there. I don't know if I'm going to put it out yet as an actual episode, mainly because I'm currently fairly daunted by the technical challenges of that. I'm sure I'll work it out. I've worked everything else out thus far. But no doubt if I do decide to put it live, you'll hear about it here. And if you can't make London, there's an event the night before in Bristol, also with Noah Lane and Sandy Kerr at the Bristol Finisterre store, helmed by Dan Crockett, who's a really talented writer and I believe one of the people behind Backwash. So yeah, that'll be a great night. He's a smart fella, Dan, and he's got a lot of interesting things to say about surfing, so that would be very interesting indeed. So coming next in episodes 19 and 20, parts 2 and 3 of my Irish omnibus with surfers Sophie Hellier and Easky Britton. 2 great chats these, in which we covered a huge range of topics, so keep your ears pinned back for those. Thanks, as usual, to everyone who's been leaving me feedback, even the people that have been criticising me. It all helps, and it's great to hear from everybody. So to get in touch, you can find my social channels on the website www.wearelooking.sideways.com. You can hit me up on podcast at wearelooking.sideways.com. And yeah, I hope to hear from you. And in the meantime, thanks for listening and see you later. Goodbye.